My father-in-law passed away suddenly. It's because you didn't take good care of him. My husband is gone because of you. I'm sorry. Apologizing won't bring him back. You're going to pay for this. Large drops of tears are falling out of my mother-in-law's eyes. It's such a deliberate and exaggerated act on her part. If you're really sorry, at least get down on your knees and beg for forgiveness. Yes, I'm very sorry. I kneel in the middle of the funeral home, while many people look on and whisper to each other. Then, her cell phone starts ringing.
It's me, Mom.
My husband's familiar voice came out of the speaker.
I just finished burning all the evidence. I still need to erase all the emails, and then I'm going home. I'm glad the old man is gone so easily. I can't believe it went so well. The old man and Lucy are idiots.
Hush, Daryl! My mother-in-law scurries to cover the speaker of her phone, but it's too late. I stand up and take a step toward her. They dug their own graves in front of such a large crowd. How stupid are they? Her fake tears have already dried up, and she's flustering. It's not what you think. I don't know who it was. It must be a wrong number. Oh, darn it. Her ugly true color is revealed now. I think to myself, smiling at her in panic. Now, my father-in-law and I would begin our retaliation, putting everything on the line. The story goes back some time ago. I was a housewife who was turning 40 that year. To make a little extra for the family, I worked part-time at a local supermarket in my spare time. I married my husband Daryl 10 years prior to the incident, and we had no kids. My in-laws lived a 15 minutes walk from our house. We planned to live together sometime in the future, as they were getting quite old. Daryl and my mother-in-law Carol were very kind to me when we first got married. As the years went by, they became more and more difficult to deal with. Daryl started complaining about my cooking, which he had enjoyed once those days. If I served him something he didn't like, he threw away the food without even taking a bite. He also looked for places that had not been cleaned well and scolded me. Carol came over every day to criticize me for everything. Then she looked in my refrigerator and took food home without asking me. I once asked Daryl to do something about her, but he told me to let her be as she was my family. Not only that, he even ordered me to cook for her. I had been frustrated and sad, but I had no one to rely on. My parents had already passed away when I was in university, and I had no close relatives. I had no particular qualifications and had only been working part-time since I got married. I had no confidence in my ability to live on my own if I got a divorce. There was no choice but to endure. They knew what I was thinking. Whenever I showed even the slightest hint of defiance, Daryl said,
I have no problem getting rid of you anytime.
He threatened me with a divorce. The only person who had been kind to me was my father-in-law, Morgan. He required nursing care, and I made time between my job and housework to take care of him. Carol had told me, I'm just as old as he is. It's not right to make me take care of him. It's the daughter-in-law's job, isn't it? You are part of the family, so you should at least help us. She turned her back on him and busied herself with her own things. Caring for Morgan had never been a burden for me. He enjoyed the food I cooked for him and was always humble and appreciative when I helped him with personal care. The time I spent with him was more like therapy for me, which had become an important part of my life. I enthusiastically went to him every time. Then one day, Daryl asked me to go for lunch with him. I was dubious about his invitation, which I had not received in many years, but I was thrilled. He said that Carol was watching Morgan, so I went out. It turned out to be a bad idea. I should never have gone out, no matter what Daryl said. While I was out, Morgan suddenly passed away. I was completely stunned, but there was no time to grieve. Daryl and Carol put all the blame on me.
It's because you haven't been taking good care of him.
That's right. If you had taken care of him every day, none of this would have happened.
We left him in church, but what have you been doing? How could he have died so suddenly?
How terrible! I was repeatedly scolded by them. Besides, they refused to go through the hassle of preparing for the funeral, etc., and I ended up taking care of all the formalities. On the day of the funeral, Morgan used to own a small business and volunteered in the community before, so a lot of his business connections and acquaintances gathered at the funeral home. They all expressed their regret for him, and many were in tears. I watched them as if I were dreaming. Then suddenly, Carol's phone started ringing loudly. In the quiet funeral home, it echoed uncomfortably. Carol panicked and pressed the speaker button by mistake. The ringing stopped, but now the caller's voice came out at high volume. The sound was very familiar to me. It was Daryl. He said there was a job he could not hold off and went on business trip, ignoring his father's funeral.
Hello, Mom. It's me.
Wait, Daryl,
What? I'm destroying the evidence now. It's all going well.
Hey, wait!
Lucy is not so bright. She has no idea. We will split the $200K insurance money as promised. I'm going to head back to you soon.
The family members and the attendees started demanding explanations and closing in on her. The relatives called Daryl, who was supposedly on a business trip, and asked him to come to the funeral home right away. At first, they were evasive, saying they knew nothing about it. However, the angry relatives were so fierce that they were forced to come clean about their plan. Morgan was feeling a little under the weather a few days before his death. It was only a little cold and nothing serious. The doctor even said he was going to get better as long as he ate and slept well. It was something that would heal quickly if he was well taken care of. In fact, he was getting better little by little after taking the prescribed medicines. Daryl and Carol had noticed that he was not well. Daryl lured me out so that I wouldn't have to take care of him and hoped that he would fade away. It was all for the insurance money. It was Carol who came up with the idea, and the two of them had been emailing about their plan. They planned to blame me for not taking good care of Morgan and just taking the money. Daryl used the business trip as an excuse and was actually busy burning the medications and notes I kept on Morgan's condition every day and erasing all the emails correspondences. When I finished hearing their story, I was burning with anger. Morgan was gone just because of their greed. I managed to calm myself and walked up to them. In fact, I had known the exchange between them. I looked into Daryl's phone that was left in the living room once. I honestly had no intention of doing so, but I was bothered by the non-stop beeping of incoming mail. I just wanted to pass it to him when I accidentally tapped the screen and saw the contents. To say that I was shocked was an understatement. I couldn't believe they were planning such an atrocity for money. I kept my composure and immediately consulted Morgan. After talking it over, we both agreed that there would surely come a day when they would not allow me to take care of him. We decided to hire a helper whom I knew, just in case that they came. On the days when I could not visit him, I would ask her to take over. She was supposed to visit him on the day I went out for lunch. I was told later that she did come. However, he doesn't need a helper. I would never let a stranger come into our house. She was yelled at by Carol and was turned away. She had no choice but to leave without checking on him. During the discussion with him, we came up with a few ideas. I decided to record him in case none of them worked. I grabbed the voice recorder and stood in front of Daryl and Carol. They looked away from me as if I was sore in their eyes. I had known what they were planning, but I'd been hoping it was all a joke. When I actually heard the two of them talk about it, my brain started to boil from shock and anger. They seemed to be feeling more uncomfortable rather than guilty, which infuriated me even more.
What the hell do you want?
I have a message for you from Morgan.
What message?
Ignoring the confused look on Daryl and Carol, I pressed the play button on the voice recorder. Morgan coughed a few times and then slowly began to speak.
The fact that you are hearing this means that the plan worked out the way you wanted to. I'm sure you must be very happy with the way things turned out, but too bad for you. I've already canceled my life insurance a long time ago. You put everything on Lucy's shoulders and don't even show your faces to me. On top of that, you have been ungrateful and giving her a hard time even though she has been working so hard. I have nothing to give or leave to such horrible people.
True to his word, he had already terminated the insurance policy. No matter how many times I asked him if he was sure, he said,
"Don't worry."
He sounded somewhat forlorn and proceeded with the procedure without any hesitation. So that's that. He knew about your plan. The insurance has been canceled for a long time now. There's no such thing as insurance money.
No way! You're lying. You just made him say those things.
Yeah, it's all your lies, isn't it? Believe it or not, it's up to you. You can contact the insurance company, but even if he kept the contract, I doubt that you will receive the money after you've spoken about the plan so much. They looked at each other in surprise. By the way, I recorded what you two said earlier. After committing such a sin, I hope you are going to tell me again that I should forgive you guys. They hung their heads down in silence, as if they had given up. I called the police, and they were taken away without resistance. I was quite busy sorting out the remaining matters of Morgan, and with the police interviews after that. Daryl and Carol had avoided criminal charges. However, their atrocity had been circulated in various circles, and they were shamed everywhere they went. Daryl was told by his boss that his presence would affect the company's reputation, and was removed from the project he had been overseeing. Although it was in the form of voluntary resignation, he was eventually fired. He has been having a hard time finding a new job because of his reputation. Carol has also been distanced from her circle of friends, and the neighbors have pressured her to move out. She has been denied a renewal of her rental agreement and has been forced to relocate. I filed for a divorce immediately after the funeral. I wasn't able to come to terms with it for a long time, but after the incident and what Morgan left with me, I finally made up my mind. There was another message from him on the voice recorder. It was addressed to me, which I did not find until after the funeral.
Dearest Lucy, thank you so much for everything you have done for me. I sincerely apologize that they have forced such a big responsibility on you to take care of me. But since I haven't been able to go out, I really look forward to spending time with you. I am blessed that such a kind person like you became part of my family. I have nothing but gratitude. I am so sorry that I could not protect you from them. You can go anywhere and live any way you want. So don't give up. I want you to choose a path that will allow you to live your life with a smile on your face.
Such was the message. It made me burst into tears. He was right. I was tired of my life, and before I knew it, I had given up. I was convinced that it was the only way. Morgan was right about choosing my way. Without Daryl, and even all alone, I could continue living. I wanted to fulfill his last wish. I immediately filed for divorce and moved out of the house. I continued to work part-time at the supermarket for the time being while looking for a full-time job. I was so anxious about my life on my own, but I now feel like I have a bright future. I'm going to start my way of life from now on.
This is the last present I will ever give you.
My husband shoves divorce papers to me.
I've decided to marry someone else, so thank you for being a cash dispenser until now.
The guy I have been with for so many years turns out to be a horrible person. This is a story of my revenge. My name is Jessica. I'm turning 50 this year. In fact, tomorrow is a little special day. I've been living in debt for a long time and will finally finish paying it off. My husband Lance and I have worked really hard together. We got married 20 years ago. I was 30 and he was 35. He ran a liquor store that he inherited from his parents who had passed away. I, on the other hand, was an office worker. We met through an acquaintance and started dating with marriage in mind. I had one concern back then. What if he asked me to run the store with him? I was working as a financial consultant who advised on insurance and investment to individual and corporate clients at the time. I was getting paid better than average 30-year-olds and loved my job. I was studying for certification to take my career to the next level. When he proposed to me, he said,
I know you have been working hard to get the certification. I want to support you in any way I can. I have enough stuff at the store, so I can manage it myself. You should pursue your dreams.
His assurance was the catalyst for my decision to marry him. He was benevolent and always on my side. I truly wanted to build a life with such a man. As we agreed in the beginning, he focused on his business, and I focused on my work. We thought that our marriage was going well. About a year into it, he went to work and I was spending my day off at home. When I was vacuuming under the bed, it caught a lot of papers. It had been less than 6 months since we moved in. I wondered why there was such clutter. I picked up a crumpled piece of paper and opened it. The header in bold letters jumped into my eyes. Reminder of payment? The total amount of the debt owed in Lance's name was $200,000. $200,000? Wait, it's not 2,000, is it? My head started spinning. Why did he hide such a large amount of debt from me? I questioned him as soon as he got home that day. What is this debt? What's going on?
No, it's not what you think. It was left to me by my parents.
The debt was not personal, but rather on his liquor store. It was made by his parents, and when he took over the business, it also came along. It was secured by the land and the house we lived in, so he had no intention to renounce the inheritance. I understood that it was not his personal debt, but it was not something that could be left unattended. But this is a payment reminder. Aren't you paying back every month?
I am, but sales fluctuate from month to month. Sometimes I can't pay them back during the slow month. I have to pay my stuff first, so I've asked them to wait. That's when the letter came.
At first, his opinion sounded to make sense, but it was definitely not a good idea to delay payment. The letter included the words final notice.
I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to freak out. Don't worry though. Business is on track and we haven't been evicted from the house, right?
That's true, but I looked at him anxiously. Then he mentioned something unexpected.
If you are so worried, why don't you help me pay off? You are making quite a lot, aren't you?
Huh? I wasn't comfortable with where he was going. It was not my store.
A husband and a wife are supposed to help each other. My debt is also yours.
That's a bit sudden.
Are you okay if my store went out of business? Many people would suffer if it was gone, you know.
I guessed. He was right. His store had become an indispensable part of the community. It was located in the suburbs where there weren't many shops or supermarkets around. He was also selling fresh foods such as meat and fish and offered a home delivery service. I visited the shop several times and it was always busy. Some customers stated that they were so grateful to have it in the neighborhood.
Please, honey, I'll be focused on keeping my business rolling. Please help me pay off my debts.
I respected the way he took his work seriously and devoted himself. I didn't want to see his store disappear. I didn't want that to happen for sure. Being married means that we support each other at all times. If he was struggling, it seems only natural for me to help him. Okay, I will pay back as much as I can every month from my salary. You can concentrate on managing the store. I could help financially, but only he could run it. I was happy that he relied on me above all else. However, it was the beginning of a change in him. About 3 years had passed since I took over his debt. He often came home late. What were you doing till this late? You reek of alcohol.
I just had a few drinks with my customers. Honey, did you make a payment this month?
For some reason, he sounded condescending. I did last week. Why?
My store depends on you. You'd better keep paying on time.
Whenever he got drunk those days, he gave me an order. I had taken it as nonsense from a drunkard, but it started to prick my nerves when he did it repeatedly. He made it sound like it was normal for me to pay back his debt.
By the way, Matt has a third kid now. I envy him.
Matt was his friend from high school. He had his own business just like Lance. His wife also worked in the store with him. I've been wanting to talk to you about that. I told him what I had been keeping to myself. Don't you think it's time for us to start a family? His reaction was very cold.
What? Baby? My business has just started to picking up, and we were still in debt. How can we be so irresponsible?
The debt was his. I held back my annoyance. Matt has 3 children now, right? We can manage one too.
His parents are still well, and his wife works in the store. They are different from us.
I couldn't counter that. I always thought that I would have children when I got married. My dream was crushed easily. So, until I pay off all your debts, we can't have a baby?
Well, I guess that's how it's going to be. If you make a lot of money and pay off the debts quickly, I'll think about it.
His mean smile disgusted me, but I felt impatient to pay off the debts as soon as possible. How blind I was. Even though it was an irrational demand, I was too occupied with the thought of starting a family and didn't even think about it. From then on, I worked tirelessly for Lance. I actively obtained qualifications, took promotional exams, and secured a salary increase. I started earning much more than women my age. I even made advanced payments, but the debt didn't disappear so easily. I turned 40 before I knew it, and had to give up on having children. I thought to myself that I still had my husband and thought he was enough. He relied on me, and I could do anything for him. As long as I still believed that, I remained happy. Lance started coming home later and later as the days went by. He sometimes came back in the morning.
I was working in the store, and it was morning when I realized it. I had to go out with a customer, and the next thing I know, the sun is out.
When I saw him working so hard to protect the store, I felt that I had to do my best as a wife too. We were on the same boat, selling for a better future together. The months and years went by, and the day finally arrived. I was going to make the last payment the next day. For the sake of the debt, I had to pass on all sorts of luxuries. I didn't need to do so anymore. I could finally spend my hard-earned money the way I wanted. I realized that ever since I got married, I had been thinking too much about money. We had never taken a vacation or even dined at a nice restaurant. We were still in our 50s. I hoped to finally enjoy such things from then on. On the day the last payment was due, I took a day off. I cooked a more luxurious dinner than usual, prepared a bottle of wine, and even baked Lance's favorite chocolate cake. I wanted to celebrate the debt-free life together. When he came home from work, I put them on the table and said, "Finally, it feels like it's been a long time. But last 20 years have gone by so fast, haven't they, honey?" He was trembling and kept his head down. I wondered if he was crying from happiness. As I was stunned, he started cracking up in a way that I had never heard before. "Ha ha ha! What the hell is going on? Are you okay?" The man who was supposed to be my husband declared the most outrageous thing.
"You are dismissed now. I'm grateful to you for the past 20 years. Thanks to you paying off all my debt, I'm a free man. Great job. I don't need you anymore."
What are you talking about? I seriously had no idea what he meant. Then, he took something out of his bag.
"This is my last present to you."
Petition for divorce in bold letters stabbed my eyes. He proudly continued,
"I've decided to marry someone else, so you're no longer of any use to me. Thanks for being my cash dispenser until now."
"You're getting remarried? Have you been cheating on me all this time?" Thinking back, he always came home late saying work or socializing. While I was working hard to pay off his debt, he was... No way. His expression remained smug.
"I will never be that unfaithful. I have already found the next potential wife. I want to divorce you and marry her. That's why I have been waiting for you to clear my debt."
Tears began to well up in my eyes at the cruelty. I was even more saddened by the blurry view of the feast I had prepared.
"So get the hell out of here."
He handed me the divorce papers. My blood started boiling faster than I could feel sadness or despair. "Okay, but you won't regret it." I squeezed out my voice.
"No, I won't. Why would I regret divorcing an old hag like you?"
An old hag? If I were her, he would be an old fart. I wondered if he thought he was still young. His misconception was so ridiculous that I regained my composure and accepted the divorce papers. "I'm going to take this with me for now, and I'll be in touch." I packed my belongings and left the house. How could my 20 years of marriage come to such an easy end? I finally shed tears of emptiness and frustration after being alone, and then asked my attorney for a divorce agreement and had him send it to Lance. I also requested and received a report on his bride-to-be. Soon after that, I received a call from him.
"Hey, Jessica, what the hell is this document?"
He sounded furious. I could imagine his face turning bright red even over the phone. I was very calm in contrast to him. "That is a divorce agreement. What about it?"
"I know what it is. What I'm talking about is this loan agreement. Why do I have to pay you back?"
He sounded distraught and kept yelling,
This is crazy. This is not right.
He was referring to the part about repaying the loan between spouses that happened during the marriage. It meant that he was asked to return the money I paid on his behalf.
This is bullshit. You decided to do it out of your goodwill, didn't you? Why are you digging up the past?
What do you mean? I did it as your wife. If we divorce, that's a different story.
Then the regret you mentioned is...
He just realized it at that moment. When he asked me for a divorce, I immediately thought of making him repay in my head. I dealt with insurance and investments, so I got to speak to different kinds of customers in my profession. Sometimes I heard about divorce issues or inheritances. Thanks to them, I had a few contacts of experienced attorneys whom I consulted right away. The total amount, including the interest I paid on his behalf, was a little over $300,000. I was determined to have him pay me back precisely that. That was all I asked for. He must have realized the seriousness of the matter by my unwavering attitude and by seeing the name of locally famous attorney on the document. He thought he could get rid of his wife without alimony in the first place. He was so ludicrous.
You know that I don't have much money.
Well, then why don't you sell the store to fund it?
If I do that, I won't have anything left. You're a Satan.
You're only 55, right? You could still find a job if you wanted to.
Give me a break.
My conversation with him was not making any sense at all. I wanted to hang up the phone right away, but there was one last thing I wanted to check. By the way, how's it going with your new bride-to-be?
That's none of your business.
I burst out in laughter at his brusque attitude. True that. It sounds like you're going through a lot. Good luck. I was about to hang up the phone.
Wait a minute. I've decided not to marry her. We can start over.
For some reason, he pleaded with me. I yelled my last words at him and hung up the phone. Start over? Don't kid yourself. I don't want you. I had been married to such a man for 20 years. I wondered if I looked more ridiculous than him in the eyes of others. I truly did respect him until the divorce came up. It was because I had watched him work so hard for the store and for his customers. I wanted to support him. 20 years later, I realized that he was just a fool. The remarriage he mentioned was just his self-indulgence. It started when he innocently flirted with a teenage university student who worked part-time.
You are so cute, Melissa. Will you be my wife?
She also played along and jokingly replied, Well, I would think about it if you let me be a full-time housewife. The truth was that he thought she was serious. The idea of marrying a man who was almost 40 years senior was nothing more than a joke to her. Of course, she was horrified to learn of his seriousness. When he persistently pressed her to marry him, her parents had to intervene and place a restraining order against him. When I read the report from the private investigation, I laughed so hard that I hyperventilated. When he started coming home late, I thought he was working hard, not knowing anything. Instead, it was the opposite. He was often hitting on young girls at his favorite bars and strip joints. He made a fool of himself by saying things like, I'm surprisingly popular with young girls. I'm a salesman, so I have this easy-to-talk-to aura and get along with them. And I'm told that I look younger. Don't you think so? The girls apparently cringed at his comments. He no longer had any use for an old wife like me and saw me only as a cash dispenser. However, his misconceived image of himself was hilarious. He was not taken seriously by anyone and became somewhat like a stalker who almost got in trouble with the police. Maybe it would have been better if he had cheated on me. Too bad he couldn't even find a mistress to have an affair with. Anyway, the reason why he aimed to marry a young girl was that his friend Matt had a grandchild. The story Matt told me was this.
As soon as he saw my grandchild, he said he wanted to have a child himself. I scolded him and said that he shouldn't say such a thing. You had been paying his debt for him. I was very harsh with him, but I had no idea he had done such a thing.
He was absolutely mortified. I'm glad I didn't spend my golden years with that man. I muttered to myself. My divorce was finalized. Since the division of property between us was not clear-cut, he had room to negotiate for his own benefit. However, he gave up just because my attorney was well known. I wondered how such a gutless person had managed to stay in business all that time. He ended up selling the store to pay me back. Fortunately, just before he sold the store, his employees had abandoned lands, so no misfortune befell them. A lot of customers frowned at him for giving up on the business that was passed on to him by his parents. When they found out that the reason was to pay back his ex-wife, they were in a state of shock. When he demanded a divorce, he got what he deserved. It was a true story, but sounded like a comedy, which spread throughout the community. Even if he hadn't sold the store, the bad publicity would have affected his business. It was probably a good thing that he sold it before he went bankrupt. The money from the sale was not enough to pay me back. He continues to work part-time jobs to pay me back to this day. Sometimes I receive messages from him.
It was all my fault. Can we get back together? I was crazy back then because Matt was showing off his grandkid.
Unfortunately, even after I block his number, he keeps calling from different phones.
If you contact your ex-wife any further, we'll file a restraining order.
I've had my attorney give him a warning. Then the calls have stopped. As usual, he's terrified of the attorney. By the way, guess what I do for work now? I'm a marriage counselor. Just as turned 50 and wanted to try a new job, my friend opened a matchmaking business. I quit my previous job and joined her. While helping singletons to find a match, I also provide advice on financial issues between couples, how to decide on insurance and so on. It was a hit, and the number of members quickly increased. The couples who want to have a frank and thorough discussion from the beginning have appreciated our unique service. I've been through a lot, and I don't want them to make the same mistakes I did. Although my salary is a little lower than before, I enjoy helping others be happy every day. I got my happiness after getting rid of my ex-husband. Today, I'm doing my best to be a bridge to someone else's happiness.
Melissa? Yes, what is it, Cindy? To be honest, it's actually really difficult for me to say this to you, but I don't even have enough money to support myself. Okay. So, I'm really sorry, but can I stop with giving you the financial support? Huh? Financial support? I live on the pension and I can't really afford to give you any financial support. What do you mean by giving me the financial support? Huh? My name is Melissa and I am 30 years old, working in a company. I met my husband Caleb through a singles party and we just got married a year ago. My husband is a kind and funny man, although he can get a little carried away sometimes. And the reason I decided to marry my husband is that because he is very family-oriented.
I want to make sure to look after and reassure my mom. She's getting old, and I'm worried about her, you know. I want to take care of her as much as I can.
When we were dating, I heard my husband talking like that about his mother, and I thought he was a wonderful person. Later, I met my mother-in-law, Cindy, for the first time to inform her about our marriage. And she was a very nice person. Oh, Melissa, thank you so much for accepting Caleb as your husband and being a wife to him. You're such a lovely and nice girl, and you're too good to be with Caleb. Even after Caleb and I got married, Cindy never changed her attitude and treated me kindly. I know it must be hard to do all the house chores while working. Melissa, you can always count on me, you know. Thank you very much, Cindy. You often hear a lot of talks on TVs and radios about issues between the wife and her mother-in-law, but there's no such problem with Cindy and I have never once been mistreated by Cindy. Rather, she takes care of me like her own real daughter. But a little while after we got married, there was something that bothered me a little. It was not about Cindy, but it was about my husband.
I'm exhausted today, so let's go to my mom's and have dinner.
What? Today is your turn to cook dinner, right?
So, I'm saying that I'm exhausted from work and don't want to do anything, so let's go to my mom's.
But won't that be a hassle for Cindy if we go so suddenly without any prior notice?
Oh, it's fine. Don't worry about that. Mom must be lonely too, so it'll be nice for her too to have us over and have a lively dinner all together.
Cindy had lost her husband 3 years ago, and now she lives alone in their house. Her house is a bit large for one person to live alone, and she could certainly get lonely. But isn't it too rude to just visit Cindy out of the blue without saying anything? If it were just my husband, it would be enough. But even I would be intruding Cindy. And if we were going to have dinner with Cindy, she would need to make some preparations. How can my husband even think that it's normal to think that we can go over to Cindy's without any prior notice? Even if we go, we should at least call Cindy to let her know.
What? We don't really have to do that, you know. We're just going back to my parents' house.
To you, it may be that, but to me, I feel like I'm intruding. We have to at least be mindful to Cindy and have manners. When I persisted, my husband said,
Okay.
And while looking really lazy, he picked up the phone and began to call Cindy.
Mom said we could go.
Are you really sure? I really hope she's not just saying that.
Come on, Mom says it's okay, so why not? I think you're worrying too much, honey.
There was no point in wasting any more time arguing with Caleb, so we headed to Cindy's house anyway. Oh, welcome you two. Thank you for coming all the way down here. My mother-in-law greeted us with a huge, gentle smile despite our sudden visit. Well then, hurry up and do come in. I just got it ready now, so please do enjoy it before the meal gets cold. Huh? You cooked that much? Cindy had made several dishes for us and served them to us. When I heard that you two were both coming, I got really enthusiastic, you know.
See, I told you. Mom is really happy that we both came here today.
Even if that is true, it is too inconsiderate of Caleb to even say that in front of her. My husband opened a beer without any hesitation, drank it down, and ate what Cindy had cooked. Well, I'll have some of the dishes you cooked, Cindy. Thank you. No, please do eat a lot. How do you like it? Oh, it's very delicious. How did you make it? Oh, I'm so happy then. Next time, I'll teach you how to cook this. Yay, thank you so much. Because Cindy was always kind, both Caleb and I were able to have dinner that day in a peaceful way. But a few days later, my husband suggested once again that we should go back to Cindy's house for dinner. We went there just the other day. So that's just too much. It'll be a huge hassle.
No, it's fine. I've already called her about it in advance this time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I called Mom yesterday.
Oh, so you were already planning to skip cooking today too?
Oh, don't say it like that, honey. I did do my part in preparing the meal, haven't I?
No, Cindy is the one who is preparing the meal. So practically, you didn't do anything.
So, I'm the one who asked my mom to cook for us today, right? So that means that even though I'm in charge of cooking, making sure that the meal for us is ready is part of my responsibility too, right?
I don't know what the hell Caleb was talking about. Even though Caleb was saying something nonsense, since Cindy had already prepared the meal, I had no choice but to go along with him. Cindy, I'm sorry for disturbing you again when we just came the other day. Oh, what are you talking about? I told you that you can count on me anytime, didn't I? If you're in trouble, don't hesitate to ask me anything, okay? Well, it's not like we're really in any trouble. It's just that my husband is slacking off in cooking and doing house chores, and that's why he's only relying on Cindy for her meals. Thinking like that, I felt very sorry for Cindy. Since then, upon my husband's suggestion, we always went to Cindy's place to ask her to feed us on the days when he was in charge of cooking. Despite that, Cindy always greeted us with a smile and cooked us delicious home-cooked meals. But I felt really bad to ask Cindy to help us out without us doing anything so many times, and that's pretty questionable being adults and all. So, I made a suggestion to my husband. Hey, I'm not going to tell you to stop going to Cindy's, but I think we should at least thank her for cooking meals for us.
Huh? Like what?
I think we should give Cindy some financial support for food since she's taken care of us so much.
I don't think Mom really cares much about that, though.
No, but I still feel bad. I'll give you some money every month from my salary, so will you give it to Cindy for me? If I give the money directly to Cindy, I am sure that she would be too careful and would not accept it because she's a very kind person like that. So I thought it would be better to give it to her from my husband, who is her son. My husband's eyes widened in surprise, but he said,
Well, if you insist that much, then I understand. I'll take responsibility and give it to Mom.
I was relieved that I could now repay Cindy a little in this way. After that, we continued to eat dinner at Cindy's house, and my husband would say this:
We're eating at Mom's place.
as if it was a normal thing now. We had dinner at Cindy's house about twice a week, and before I knew it, 3 months had passed. Of course, I felt a little bad, but since I know that I also gave Cindy some financial support, maybe I was thinking in a spoiled way. Then, I learned about a shocking fact. It was after dinner one day at Cindy's house.
Phew, I ate very well.
Saying that, my husband had finished eating and was relaxing on the sofa watching TV. I was washing dishes and cleaning up with Cindy. Then, Cindy started talking to me with an awkward look on her face. Melissa? Yes, what is it, Cindy? To be honest, it's actually really difficult for me to say this to you, but, I don't even have enough money to support myself. Okay. So, I'm really sorry, but can I stop with giving you the financial support? Huh? Financial support? I live on pension and I can't really afford to give you any financial support. What do you mean by giving me the financial support? Huh? Well, you know, like I cook you both meals regularly and how I'm giving you financial support regularly. What? I understand that you and Caleb are in trouble, but as you can imagine, I'm starting to feel a little desperate too. Hey, wait a minute. I don't know anything about you giving us financial support. What? Besides, I am giving you financial support every month, aren't I? Huh? I felt bad about you having to take care of us so many times, cooking us amazing meals, so I gave Caleb some money to give to you, Cindy. I haven't received anything from Caleb. What? Then both Cindy and I had realized something. There is only one person we could think of. I had never been pissed off like this ever before. Then I immediately went over to Caleb, who was lying on the sofa. Hey, Caleb! What is the meaning of this?
What? What is it?
My husband seemed to be drunk and he was giggling around. What do you mean, what is it?
What's wrong with you? Shouting at me like that. Did you have an argument with Mom?
I grabbed my husband, who was lying down by his chest, and woke him up.
What is it with you all of a sudden?
We've been getting financial support from Cindy?
What?
And where did you put the money I asked you to give to Cindy?
Well, that's...
My husband is just clamming up, upset, as if he has something to be guilty of.
Just let go of me for now. I feel like I'm going to throw up if you shake me too much.
So I let go of his chest. Will you please explain what exactly is going on?
About what?
Are you trying to act dumb at this point? Cindy seemed to have lost her patience, and she also began questioning Caleb. You told me that you were both in trouble, so I gave you money and even fed you dinner multiple times.
Hey, what the hell? What's wrong with you? Even you're mad at me, Mom.
We have every right to be mad at you. You have been deceiving Cindy and I, you know.
That's a terrible way to say that.
Then, where did our money go to?
Hey, let's just stop talking about this. We just had Mom's delicious food and now you're spoiling the good mood.
And whose fault is it?
That's...
My husband couldn't say anything back anymore and went silent. You're not going to tell me how you spent the money, are you? All right, fine. Then I have an idea too. Caleb looked at me as if he was asking me what my idea was. I called my sister-in-law, Lila. Lila is very protective of me and takes care of me really well, and my husband is very weak towards Lila. Lila is a strong-willed, independent woman, and when my husband, who has always been a good guy, would get carried away, she makes sure to set things straight for Caleb. When I called Lila and explained the situation quickly, she said she would be here soon. When my husband found out that Lila was coming over, his face turned really pale. Lila lives about a 10-minute drive from Cindy's house, so she came right over. Caleb, what the hell did you do? What did you do with Mom and Melissa's money?
That's...
My husband stubbornly refused to talk even after Lila arrived. This is going to be a long battle. Melissa, you can go home for today. I'll interrogate him all night and make him talk. Thank you very much. I'll be waiting for your update. So, I took Lila's word for it and decided to go home first. The next day, when I went to work as usual, I received a message from Lila. Caleb finally came clean. He's a terrible bastard. Can you come over to Mom's house again after work today? I wondered what it was. I wondered what Caleb did which made Lila describe him like that. So, I went to Cindy's house after work. My husband and Lila was already there. Oh, Melissa, I'm sorry to make you come over again. It's okay. My husband was made to sit on the floor, and his face was turning pale by the minute. Well then, Caleb, why don't you talk to Melissa properly about the truth? I stood right in front of my husband to listen. He was looking down at himself really awkwardly. I can't really understand you if you keep looking down. Please explain to me what's going on.
I'm so sorry. It was just a spur of the moment kind of thing.
What was?
Well, I had an affair with another woman.
Huh?
I'm really sorry.
So you were cheating on me behind my back?
I guess so.
You're such a bastard.
I'm really sorry.
And? What did you use the money on which Cindy and I gave you? Answer me properly.
For the trip and the date and the hotels for the affair. And the travel fees.
What? A trip? How did you even have the time? Oh. Don't tell me that you're talking about these business trips that you've been having frequently. My husband then nods awkwardly. Wow, I can't believe this. I can't believe that you lied about your job and went on a trip with a woman to have fun.
I'm really sorry. It won't happen again, so please forgive me.
Oh, there is no way that I will forgive you. We're getting a divorce. A divorce!
No way. You can't just divorce me. It was a one-time mistake.
Then, before I could get mad at Caleb for what he said, Lila and Cindy snapped. That's enough, Caleb. What you did is absolutely unforgivable. Yeah, that's right. And what do you mean it was just a one-time mistake? When you've been on numerous trips and you've been seeing her secretly many times. Divorce is a must. A wonderful person like Melissa shouldn't be pushed around by such a lousy brother like you, Caleb. You will definitely pay alimony for your affair and the money you stole from Mom and Melissa.
Oh no.
Then, Lila took out the official documents for divorce and handed them to me. She thought that I would need it, so she got it for me at the city hall, as well as a number for a lawyer. I checked the documents and signed the parts I needed to sign and gave it to Caleb. My husband was reluctant, but Lila and Cindy got angry with him again, so he signed it right away. Thus, like this, my divorce from my husband was finalized. Then, through my lawyer, I demanded alimony from Caleb and his mistress. Of course, I also claimed the money I had given to Caleb. I also heard that his mistress was also married, and since her husband is also demanding alimony from Caleb, he is now in huge debt. Currently, Caleb is living at Cindy's house, and both Lila and Cindy manages Caleb's wallet, making sure that he does not waste his money and that it is always used to pay off his debts. Because of this, Caleb only gets $10 every day to go to work, and once he uses the money for his lunch and so on, he won't have any money left. So, he can't even go to bars and afford any luxury, and he has no choice but to go home. Caleb deserves what he got, and it's not at all surprising that he now has to pay back the money he had used when it wasn't even his money. Caleb is just a low-life scumbag, having an affair based off on other people's money. On the other hand, I live in an apartment now and I am living comfortably on my own. By the way, I still keep in touch with Cindy and Lila, and the three of us sometimes go out to dinner together. My ex-husband is a low-life scumbag, but the only thing I'm grateful to him is for giving me the opportunity to meet Cindy and Lila. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. We hope to see you in our next video.